All right, let's tackle a huge question today, one that's at the absolute heart of how a country as massive and diverse as India even functions. How in the world do you fairly divide up all the tax money? It's a puzzle worth trillions, and the answer, believe it or not, lies with a very powerful group called the Finance Commission.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You have this giant national treasure chest, right? It's filled with all the taxes collected from every single corner of the country. So who gets what? How much does the central government need to keep for things like national defense, railways, and highways? And how much gets sent back to the states so they can run schools, hospitals, and local police? It is a monumental challenge.
Well, the official answer to that trillion-dollar question is the Finance Commission. This body is actually set up by the Indian Constitution, and it acts like the ultimate financial referee. Every 5 years, a new commission comes together to create a formula, a fresh set of recommendations for how to slice up that national pie. And we're now on the 16th version of this whole process.
So the very first job the commission has is to make the biggest cut of all. It has to decide how much money stays with the central government and how much goes to all the states combined. This is what the experts call vertical devolution.
You know, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it like a family budget. The central government is kind of like the main earner, bringing in most of the income. It has to figure out how much it needs for its own big expenses and then how much it can give to the rest of the family, the states, to handle all of their own individual needs and responsibilities.
And here's what that first big split actually looks like. The commission recommended that the center should keep 59% of that divisible tax pool. That leaves the remaining 41% for all the states to share among themselves. Now, that 41% figure, that is the crucial number to keep in mind.
Now here's where it gets interesting. The biggest news about this split was that there was no news. The commission decided to keep the state's share at exactly 41%, the same as the last commission. And they did this for a really important reason: stability. It sends a clear message to the states that, hey, you can count on this steady flow of funds. But trust me, this is just the warm-up act.
Okay, now for part 2. And this is where the real drama always unfolds. How do you divide that massive 41% pot of money among India's 28 states? Each one has its own unique size, population, and economy. This is what we call the great state-by-state debate.
This process is called horizontal devolution, and it is an incredibly high-stakes game of balancing all these competing needs. Think about it. Should a state with a way bigger population get more money? What about a state with huge forest cover that, helps the whole country breathe? Or what about a state that's really struggling economically? This is where the formula gets super complex.
Well, the 16th Finance Commission made one massive change to that formula, a real game changer. For the very first time, they gave a 10% weight to a state's contribution to GDP. This is a huge shift because it directly rewards the states that are the economic powerhouses of the country.
Okay, so this table really lays out the new playbook. Look at what's gone. They've gotten rid of the population data from the old 1971 census, and also this thing called tax effort, which tried to reward states for collecting tax as well. And what's in their place? That big new 10% for GDP contribution. At the same time, you'll see the weight for the current population has gone up a little, while the weight for income distance, which is basically a measure to help poorer states, has been slightly reduced.
But the Commission's job isn't just about coming up with a funding formula and calling it a day. Nope, it also sets rules and pushes for major reforms to get states into better financial shape. It's not just about giving out money, it's also about making sure that money is used well. And they put forward a pretty strong reform agenda. They recommended things like fixing the state power companies that are losing tons of money, making subsidies more logical, and getting rid of state-owned companies that are just bleeding cash. They also called for much stricter budget discipline, setting clear debt targets for everyone to hit.
And here is a really crucial point. The era of just getting automatic grants, no questions asked, that's fading away. The Commission really emphasized a shift towards performance-based grants. What that means is future funding is going to be tied way more directly to results and accountability. Basically, if you want the money, you've got to show you can deliver.
So, let's zoom out for a second. When you put all these pieces together, the new GDP criteria, this big push for reforms, the performance-based grants, what does it all actually mean? What's the big picture philosophy that's driving all these changes?
It really all boils down to this fundamental tension between two big ideas: equity and efficiency.
For decades, the main focus was on equity, using things like income distance to give more money to poorer states to help them catch up. But now, with this new contribution to GDP factor, the pendulum is swinging towards efficiency, rewarding the states that perform well economically. You could say the 16th Commission is trying to walk a very, very delicate tightrope between these two philosophies.
This quote from the source material just sums it up perfectly. India is moving towards what's called performance-based fiscal federalism. In simple terms, the whole system for sharing money is evolving. It's becoming a system where your economic performance and your financial discipline are starting to matter more and more.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. The 16th Finance Commission has definitely nudged the scales, but this debate is far from over. As India keeps growing and changing, which principle is ultimately going to win out? Will the focus be on helping those in need or rewarding those who perform? That right there is the great question.